The new iPad Pros just got here and I've been so excited to get my hands on them. The 12.9 inch and the 11 inch models are both powered by the M1 chip. They use faster storage, they have the new Thunderbolt port, and they have the upgraded camera features, but only the larger model has the new XDR display. I can't wait to see this display side by side with the 2020 iPad Pro. I've got tons of other M1 iPad Pro content coming, so let's just go ahead and get this thing unboxed. I'm gonna go ahead and use this custom Benchmade mini bug out that I got as a gift. Thank you, Brian. And I can't really explain why I like knives, but I love knives. And this one is actually pretty awesome. So let's, well, you know what, actually, we don't even need it because I forgot Apple's got this new little tab. So let's go ahead and get this out of here. I got the 12.9 inch in silver and the 11 inch in space gray, and both are Wi-Fi only models. They both come with the same accessories, so I'll open the 11 inch later, but we should have some documents to go. Oh, look at it. That is so nice. All right, we're gonna put that over here. I know just gonna put that over there. We probably have the same, you know, docs. We got stickers, a couple of stickers. Nobody cares about these docs. We're gonna put those over there. We've got a USB-C to USB-C charging cable, a 20-watt charger or power adapter, just like we have with the Air 4. So nothing really new here. Let's go ahead and get to the obligatory ASMR moment of the iPad Pro. I'm so excited. Boom, done. Oh, look, it's so nice. All right, so it looks a lot like the 2020 iPad Pro, but it does feel thicker and a little bit heavier. Like, it's not a lot. I think it's only like a 0.5 millimeter or like 0.02 inches and maybe 45 or 50 grams heavier, but you can feel it. If you're used to holding your iPad Pro, you'll probably notice it. If not, it's really not a big deal. But other than that, it looks very, very similar to the 2020 iPad Pro. And I don't know if you remember, but that added thickness was one of the reasons for the new Magic Keyboard. But you know what, speaking of that, let's just see if it fits. I think it's gonna fit just fine. You know, I don't have a screen protector or anything, but it looks like it fits just fine. All right, let's get that out of there. I'll do more tests in my follow-up videos. I'll put a screen protector, try the two Magic Keyboards because I got the new one in white, which I'm actually super excited about. And that's actually why I got this one in silver instead of space gray, because I think the silver is gonna look nicer with the white Magic Keyboard. Looking around on the rear-facing camera, we've got a 12 megapixel wide and a 10 megapixel ultra wide, plus we have the LiDAR scanner. On the front, we have the same size bezels, and while we can't see the difference, we now have what Apple calls a true depth camera system with ultra wide. And that gives us that new center stage feature. So basically it's a 12 megapixel camera versus the 7 megapixel one on the 2020 iPad Pro. And I'm very interested in testing out the image quality. And of course, it's gonna be more than just the upgraded camera because the M1 chip has a new image signal processor. And that's in charge of all the computational photography and videography. And basically what that means is that the iPad Pro is using the M1 chip's processing power to evaluate what the camera sees. Then it makes adjustments in real time to either the image or the footage. So it could do things like brighten up darker areas or bring down highlights, basically to get you better looking photos and videos. Now, there's no Touch ID on the new iPad Pro, so it's still using the front-facing true depth camera for Face ID. And I was hoping that they would implement the Touch ID that we got on the iPad Air 4 and then like give us both options. But if I have to choose one, it's definitely gonna be Touch ID. Just get this thing running. All right, while this thing is booting up and looking around the edges, we've got 4 speaker grills still with the quad speaker system. And this is definitely the best speaker system in the iPad lineup. So when you go from the iPad 8 to the iPad Air 4, there's a noticeable jump in quality. And then when you move from the Air 4 to the iPad Pro, again, there's a very significant jump. Now continuing on to the bottom, we've got a USB-C port with support for Thunderbolt and USB 4, and that's another upgrade coming from the 2020 model. And it's gonna give us connection speeds of up to 40 gigabits per second, which is gonna be pretty insane. The average user may not use this, but if you're a photographer or videographer and you're transferring very large files and a lot of them, that's gonna be something that you'll appreciate. Now your existing USB-C accessories are gonna work, and this new port is capable of driving high resolution displays like the Pro Display XDR. And I really hope that we get extended display functionality and the ability to use the entire display very soon. If you've gotten value from this video so far, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Lets me know what kind of content you like so that I can make more of it. And I still see that over 90% of you are new viewers, so hit that subscribe button. And now let's get to the star of the show, this new display that's now upside down, but now it works. Of all the upgrades, this was the one that I was most excited about. Like, I have no problems with the 2020 iPad Pro display, but if you're telling me that I'm gonna get a better display, like, I'm always game. So it's powered by 10,000 mini LEDs with a 600 nits max brightness, which is the same as the 2020 model, but then there's 1,000 nits full screen brightness and 1,600 nits peak brightness in HDR. And this new display also offers a 1,000,000:1 contrast ratio. It's got the exact same resolution at 2732 by 2048, 264 pixels per inch, and it uses ProMotion, which is Apple's adaptive 120 Hz refresh rate. It basically means that it can conserve battery life with a lower refresh rate when it's not needed, but if it detects that you're doing something that would benefit from this faster refresh rate, then it will automatically bump it up. So you're kind of getting the best of both worlds. Now the display itself looks fantastic, and in my 10-day review, I'll give you more examples and then side-by-side comparisons. So I'm really curious to see how it measures up against the 2020 model. Now it has all the same features: True Tone, DCI-P3 color gamut, fingerprint resistance, and an anti-reflective coating. Now I can't wait to use this display to watch content and then see if it actually makes a difference. I'm also gonna do photo and video editing, and I'll definitely let you know how it goes. Now, as far as accessories, of course, we have full compatibility with the 2nd generation Apple Pencil. This is actually a tool that I didn't think I would use all that much, but then once I started, I realized like how versatile it is. And if you're interested, check out that video where I show you some very helpful Apple Pencil tips and tricks. Now we talked a little bit about the Magic Keyboard compatibility already. And when the new Magic Keyboard was announced, there was a little bit of drama because Apple said that the new iPad isn't compatible with the older Magic Keyboard. And this has to do with it being ever so slightly thicker. And now I think the website says that it will fit without a screen protector. I'll drop a screen protector on it and do some tests. And like I said earlier, it looks fine now, and I'll let you know more in my follow-up videos. Now, what I was hoping to get with the new Magic Keyboard is data transfer through the USB-C pass-through, so I don't need to have like an external SSD dangling from the side of my iPad, but maybe that's coming in a future model. Now, I briefly mentioned the camera system, but we're getting a 12 megapixel f1.8 wide main camera and then a 10 megapixel f2.4 ultra wide. And that gives us a 2x optical zoom out and then up to 5x digital zoom. We also now have support for Smart HDR3 for photos. For video, we're seeing a slight upgrade. We still have 4K at 24, 25, 30, and 60 frames per second, and then 1080p at 25, 30, and 60. I'm not really sure what happened to 24 frames per second in 1080p, but that's the same as the 2020 model. Now, the one change that we see is extended dynamic range for video at up to 30 frames per second. So I'm really curious to see if that results in a noticeable difference in the footage. Now, the front-facing camera is where all the excitement comes in. So we're moving from a 7 megapixel camera on the 2020 model to a 12 megapixel one with a slightly smaller aperture of f2.4, but we're getting 2x optical zoom out and center stage. Now, if you remember from Apple's Spring Loaded event, there was a scene where a dad was in the kitchen, he was using the iPad Pro for a video call, and then the camera would automatically zoom in and out in order to keep him in the frame. So I'll show you a couple of tests, and I'll have even more in my follow-up videos. And I do wish that they moved the camera to the longer edge, so, you know, for better framing, especially because most of the time when I'm on a video call, I do have it on the Magic Keyboard, and the camera is kind of to the side. If it was up here, it would be perfectly centered, but I guess they think it's better over here. So that's where it is. Now let's get to the M1 chip, and you probably know all about it from the Mac Mini, MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and the new iMac. But this new chip brings an insane amount of processing power to the iPad Pro. Not that it really needed it, it was already the most powerful tablet, but this kind of takes things to the next level. We're definitely going to see improved performance over the A12Z chip on the 2020 iPad Pro, and I'm curious to see if it's noticeable for everyday use or just for extremely resource-intensive use cases. I mean, it's not an incremental improvement in performance. It's not like going from the A12X to the A12Z. Like comparing the M1 performance on my MacBook Air to the 2020 iPad Pro, like there was a jump of like 30 to 40% in performance, and then like sometimes even more. There are two versions of the chip. So the 128, 256, and 512 come with 8 gigabytes of unified RAM. And then if you upgrade to the 1 terabyte or the 2 terabyte models, then you get bumped up to 16 gigs of RAM. Now you might be wondering why anyone would need 16 gigs of RAM on an iPad, and I think that's a fair question. When you look at the 2020 iPad Pro, it comes with 6 gigs. So a lot of speculation is going on, like anything from support for more resource-intensive apps for photo and video editing, or maybe improved AR and VR functionality. Now, some people go as far as wanting Mac OS to run on an iPad, and then others say that Apple is simply using the same chip from the other devices in order to keep things simple and the cost down. I wanted to put this in the middle of the review, but I just went, opened a bunch of apps, I kept them running in the background, and then basically just jumped around from one task to another. And again, just to see how this thing performs, and it absolutely flies. Now, I expect it to absolutely crush iPad OS with any app that I try to throw at it, and I'm super curious to see how it handles large video renders and high-res photo editing. And I really want to see what's coming with iPad OS 15, because how is Apple going to take advantage of all this processing power? This is essentially giving developers an amazing sandbox to play with, and I can't wait to see the changes to iPad OS and then how new and existing apps take advantage of, all this. Now remember that I have more M1 iPad content coming. Hopefully this video was helpful. Click on my face to subscribe and then watch one of these videos. You know what I always say? Buy it nice or buy it twice. Good luck and see you soon.